joining me online. Nick, it'd be really good to have a bit of a chat about what's going on with yourself at the moment in terms of the season and also the project that you're joining us on with Sweat, the mobile app. So yeah, it'd be good to hear about how you're doing at the moment in terms of training leading into Beijing and how races have been up until this point this season.
Yeah, so it was a rough start to the season, coming off of an injured year. This was originally supposed to be a bit of a rebuilding year, but kind of found my momentum mid-June and made my 10th global championship team by winning USA's at the US Outdoor Championships. So qualified me for the World Championships in Beijing, and the last 5 weeks or so I've been based here in Seattle, Washington, just training my butt off, getting ready for those championships. So I know I've raced in Beijing before, and I've run 3 round series before, so I know what it's going to take to be successful out there. So that's what I've been doing, and of course posting every single day's workout on Sweat. I'm a guy that likes to share my training. I get amped up reading other people's training and sharing training with them. And in 2012, I even went so far as to publish my training log for that year. So this is just such a more fun and uh, and simple way to connect with my fans and to talk about training with other people. And it's been just in the beta version that we've been testing. I've had so much fun with. I think I have about 10 followers, but just working and interacting with them has been really fun.
Yeah, I mean it's as you said, it's very similar to what you did do in 2012, but it's a lot more interactive and a lot less trouble to go to than to publish something. And obviously having people
hmm
be able to comment and like and all the normal social media stuff is obviously handy as well, and sharing to Facebook. But yeah, just to touch back on what you said before about the season, I found it interesting that I didn't see. Correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't see a whole lot of races before. Um, the trials, and he sort of came out there and ran what was a 144 pretty low. Were you
Yeah.
expecting to run something in that? I mean, I know obviously the goal is to place and to get through and to win, obviously, but
Yeah.
did the time surprise you at that time of year, or is that kind of what you
A
thought?
little bit. I came into the race with a season best of 146.3 that I'd run in Ponce, Puerto Rico about a month earlier. But I've always found that my body kind of primes itself through the rounds. And, I also typically run my preseason races in the middle of some pretty heavy training. And that's something that I think Sweat will show over the course of the next year, is that when I'm running these exhibition races, these diamond leagues or permit meetings, I'm in the middle of 60-mile weeks. And so when I was finally able to give myself a taper and get into USAs with fresh legs and find my momentum through the rounds, I actually ended up running a season best in every single round. So I was
Oh,
146.2, 145.9, 144.5.
yeah, okay.
So I guess I would say I was surprised with a 144.5. I thought, I could maybe sneak in for the third spot on the team with a 145 low, but it was running Eugene, Oregon, and that was my home track for 8 years. And I know that track well, and the crowd, they still love me down there, and I appreciate the noise they made for me. And the adrenaline's a powerful drug, right?
For sure. Yeah,
And
definitely. What about the other? What about the
and
other drug you're taking at the
the
moment?
other drug helps a lot too. So of course this was my first U.S. championships with Run Gum assisting me. So having Run Gum, the amount riding on this one was pretty big. We'd invested a lot of marketing in Run Gum, and just knowing that I hadn't won a title for Brooks yet in a Brooks jersey, and that Run Gum could really use the earned media that would come from a win. It was really a lot of pressure, but typically in the past I've performed best when there's a lot of pressure on the line. So
Sure.
I was really grateful that my old 31-year-old legs held up for one more championship.
Yeah, awesome. And you made a decision not to head over to Europe. Can you tell a bit more about that?
Yeah, so having done this 10 times now, 10 different ways, I know that if I go over to Europe before an Asian championship, that typically it wears me out pretty bad. It takes me a long time to adjust from the travel, and I knew that if I went to Europe and took 8 days to adjust and raced a couple times and came back and took another 8 days to adjust in America and then flew all the way over to Asia and took another 8 days, it would really compromise my training. And I really just wanted to buckle down and be as fit as I possibly could going into Beijing. And in order to do that, I needed to just stay in one place and train my butt off. So that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been just here based in the Pacific Northwest pretty much nonstop for the last 5 weeks, and I feel good for it. I feel like training's gone really well. I'm healthy. No injuries. Knock on wood. And I'm scheduled to fly out here on the 16th into Narita, Japan, for our training camp leading into Beijing.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I've seen some of your well, obviously all of your training come through on Sweat, which you've been really, really good about posting. I mean, very obviously thorough with your workouts and what you've been doing. And no, it seems like the shape's certainly there. You paced a 1500 just the other day out in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Were you planning to pace that the whole time? Because
Well, that's a good question. Originally, I was going to go out and race it. Paul Doyle's a good friend of mine. He's the meet director, and I love what he's doing out there. And I wanted to be a part of his event. When I got out there, it was a pretty small field. There were only about 5 guys racing, and uh, I found myself a little in over my head with Andrew Weeding and David Torrance, who are considerably better milers. And I realized pretty quickly that either I was going to have to basically run solo for 1500 or um, run with them as long as I could. And so when I found out that they didn't have a rabbit that could go a K, I kind of volunteered. I felt that a K running with guys in a competitive environment and feeling good was probably more beneficial than maybe running 2 or 3 seconds off the pace by myself and
sure.
getting dragged around for a 330 high or 340. At this point, confidence is important to be maintained. Fitness and feeling good, those are all key things when you're trying to get ready for a global championship. So I kind of felt like I got to tick all the boxes by rapping. I was able to get a good session in, a longer interval than an 800, which is what I needed, and help Paul out and have a great night with two of my good friends, David Torrance and Andrew Weeding, who I think both ended up running 339.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay, no, good to hear. And how did you feel in the 1K going through? What was it, 224, 225? Did that feel pretty
I think I ran,
comfortable?
224, 225. That's pretty comfortable pace for me. I had toyed with the idea of trying to go 1,200 meters, but again, I'm in the middle of some really heavy training, and I actually have my biggest sprint workout of the season today. So that was always in the back of my mind. I'm racing a 400 this weekend in Portland.
Okay,
So when you're in the middle of heavy training like that, and you're racing back-to-back weekends, uh, and ultimately you know that the only one that matters is 3 weeks away in Asia. You just kind of, I always say you want to save, want to save it for when it really counts.
for
And
sure.
so I thought, let's get out of here at the K, get a great cool down in, and get a good meal in, and then start focusing on really preparing for the race that's going to take place on August 25th.
Yeah, no, definitely good plan. So what's the sprint workout today, and what do you think you're going to run on through the 400 on the weekend?
400, yeah. So today is a real true sprint workout. I don't think I've ever done a day where my intervals totaled up to less than 800 meters. Typically, we're running intervals between 3 to 5 miles for the intervals. So today I've got 2 by 150, 2 by 200, all off 7 minutes recovery, and it is all out 100% sprinting. And I'll try to hit the 150s and 16 low, and I'll try to run the 200s just under 22. I'm not totally sure that I'm able to do that, but I remember before 2013, right before I won my silver medal in Moscow, I did this same workout and ran 16 points and 22s flats. So
Okay.
that's the goal. I've got Kaz Loxon, my training partner, who's got incredible speed. I've got him doing it with me today, and FlowTrack's actually going to come out and film it, and I think they're going to use it as a workout Wednesday. So I love the way the internet connects us all, and the way that people can go to FlowTrack and log on and watch me do these workouts, and they can laugh and say, hey, I already know what he's run because I was on Sweat earlier. Saw it posted live basically. And the other cool thing about Sweat is we can geotag the photos, so you know exactly where I'm working out, because I travel a lot. You can see some of these amazing training venues that I post pictures of, and it's just such an intimate way to see the life of a pro. And as kind of a guy who's so curious about other people's training, I follow other runners, triathletes, and to see what they're doing. I think there's a young lady that trains in Colorado, I believe,
Yeah.
who's a triathlete, and looking at one of her days of training blows my mind. I've kind of always
Yeah. I think I saw the same
gotten
one
all
you're talking about.
embarrassed.
It was like
Yeah,
6 hours
I'm
long or something.
embarrassed. Just, right? I'm
Yeah.
embarrassed to see what kind of training she's doing, because like her warm up in the morning is equivalent to the amount of running that I do in a day, and
Yeah.
then she also has a 2 hour swim and a bike ride on top of it. So I feel a bit lazy reading my training log sometimes.
Yeah, no, exactly. I know what you mean. No, she's been posting some really interesting stuff, and I totally agree. It really opens your eyes up to sort of what they're doing in the other sports, especially those long
Yeah,
endurance sports like Ironman and Tri. But yeah, cool. I mean, let's talk a little bit more about Sweat and what we're doing there. I mean, I'm obviously involved on the finance and strategy and with the guys, and it's been really good to have you on board in terms of getting some, what you think from a professional perspective, would be best to include in the app. And I guess it's probably a good idea for us to just talk a little bit about why you think it's a good idea for a professional athlete to be on Sweat, and also if you're not so much a professional and you're more so just that elite, sub elite runner, what you can get out of using Sweat.
yeah. From a professional standpoint, I've always kind of taken the position that what we're doing is very selfish, right? We just use resources as much as we can, whether it's coach's time or running shoes or gasoline to fly us all over the world. I always felt like it was a very selfish endeavor to try to be the best athlete that you could be, and I guess the way I justified living that lifestyle was that I was going to try to inspire as many people as I could to be the best athlete that they could be. And whether that was through social media or my performances on the track or even through my companies like Run Gum, I just wanted to inspire people to be active and be the best version of themselves that they could be. And so when Sweat approached me and told me that they would connect me with this platform where I could very, very easily and effectively reach my fans and other people who were fitness enthusiasts, and I could inspire them every single day with the workouts that I was doing, and offer them encouragement. Suddenly, the selfish endeavor of single-mindedly training to be the best athlete in the world, I could actually make that mean something more and inspire people on and basically contact them or communicate with them on a one-to-one basis. So that really jumped right out at me.
For
Um,
sure.
the social media aspect of it. I published my training log in 2012 and basically ran a run of 500 and just shipped them off, and that was it. But I never got to hear what people thought about it. I wanted to hear if they tried one of the workouts and what they felt, and let them know, oh, maybe you need a little bit more recovery here, or obviously this pace is a little bit too hot for someone, And I like the social media aspect. I want people to comment on the workouts, and I want to be able to give them clarification. And I just, again, continue to inspire people to be the best athlete they could be.
Definitely. No, that's a really good explanation, and you're right. It's just a whole lot easier to do than and interact than sort of posting a book, which I have seen a lot of athletes do in the past. So
Yeah.
we're really trying to change the game in that regard. But yeah, so and I guess a couple of people have asked me, what's the difference between this and something like Instagram and Twitter, and the first thing that I always say is, well, people they're simply not really sharing that sort of information on there. It's just not really the right place to do it.
It's not,
Um,
yeah.
and I guess the other thing about Sweat that you use it for, if it's not totally clear for people yet as to what it is, you do log everything that you do in terms of training. So if you're currently using an Excel spreadsheet or you're writing it down in a diary, this is a real
Yeah.
replacement of that. And we've tried to make it as absolutely simple as possible to upload things. And
Yeah.
I hope
You
you
did a good
agree that
job.
it is pretty simple, and it only takes a couple of clicks, and you've got something up. And obviously you can pimp it
Yeah.
and fancy it up, but yeah.
Well, talking about the selfish aspect of it, for years I've kept my own training log, like I think most pros and most athletes do. We've got a little Mead binder or an Excel spreadsheet, and we write down every single mile that we log in, and then I've got it just sitting here in a desk drawer, and I'm like, this is incredible knowledge
Yeah.
that should be passed down. It shouldn't just sit in a desk drawer. This is stuff that people can use and benefit from, and let's get that knowledge out there and allow people to continue to be great. I get asked a lot about the resurgence of distance running in America. We went from the mid 2000s where the 3:36 might make you America's best miler to now that won't even get you top 10. We've
Mm.
got people winning medals. In the Moscow, I think we won a medal in every single distance race. Yeah, men's and women's 8 and 15. Centrowich, myself, Jenny Simpson, Brenda Martinez, we're winning medals again in events that we never had won medals in before.
Yeah.
And everyone's asking why that is. And I think it comes down to the internet.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, kids growing up, they know what times are. They know what it means to run a sub 150 for a high score, sub 4 minute. And they see their colleagues doing it and they say, oh my gosh, I can do that. And if we're going to continue that momentum, then a thing like Sweat allows young people to continue to see the progression, or to see how periodization works, or to see the advantages that a pro might have over, say, a high school or collegiate, and allows them to again try to find those advantages and be the best athlete they can be. So I think that this is, if I'm thinking about trying to uh, be a guy that when he retires wants to continue to be a fan of the sport and wants to continue to see Americans win medals, anything that I can do to pass on what I've learned over the last 10 years to the next generation, so I can sit in the stands in Tokyo and watch an American win an Olympic medal, then that's something that I want to be a part of.
Definitely. No, very well explained. And I guess the other thing that we really wanted to make sure was I had a really good example. I've got a really close friend of mine who's a top triathlete, and he mentioned that he gets a lot of questions about what sort of shoes he wears, what
Mhm.
sort of nutrition he takes before training and after training, but he doesn't really feel like just going ahead and posting that sort of stuff on his current social media
Yeah.
feeds. And he mentioned that he's going to be joining us on Sweat pretty soon, and he said, well, this is the sort of the perfect place that I can upload that sort
Right.
of stuff, and I currently don't really have anywhere that I can upload those little. They're not secrets, but they're just things that a lot of people would like to know, but there's never a
Yeah.
real place for me to say it unless I'm at like a conference. And that's what we also really want to make sure. And at the end of the day, that's really helping out the athletes with
Yeah.
their sponsors. Um,
Well, and again, when you approach a sponsor and you start talking about partnerships, of course they want to know where they can get a return on their investment. And it does seem so promotional when you post on Twitter or Instagram, and you have
exactly.
to be very careful how you do that. But when you come into Sweat, and you know that the people that are following you, that's the kind of audience that is very, very curious about that stuff.
Exactly.
And you can tell them exactly, hey, this is how I integrate Run Gum into my daily performance. One of the questions we get asked the most at Run Gum is how do you use it, or how should I use it? Well, I'll tell you exactly minute for minute how I use it, and you can see how I work with hydration and the different kind of spikes I wear. We do a lot of prototyping testing as pros, and oftentimes I post pictures of these really great shoes that Brooks has me testing, and people are so curious about them. But again, I don't know that Instagram or Twitter is an appropriate place to talk about those kind of things. But on a place like Sweat, it's a really, really great way to just talk again about the life of the pro and the advantages that we have, and all the cool stuff that we do, from nutrition to prototype testing and everything else.
Exactly. Cool. No, it's only a few days away now till we're out the door and available to the public. So we look forward to that day, and also obviously to the pros and the other people that join us on there very soon.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Cool. Thanks for the chat, Nick, and we'll definitely be talking again pretty soon.
Sounds good.
Cool.